Have you been told that calming down the nervous system is the cure to heal your chronic illness? And have you tried it, but are you still stuck? By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what happened, why it did not work, and better, what's the best way forward. So hi, my name is Daniel. And in the past, I used to have for many years on end a chronic illness, chronic fatigue syndrome. And after I recovered, I became a health coach. And since then, I've coached thousands of people in one-on-one coaching sessions. And along the way, I discovered that there is a much more efficient way to heal. It's a method that no one wants to talk about. It's the release process. And I'm keen to share everything that I know with you. So stay with me for this video and let's talk about the nervous system. The autonomic nervous system is a critical part of the nervous system that controls all the involuntary actions, like respiration and digestion, for example. But it also controls the stress response. And in general, there are two branches: the rest and digest mode, or parasympathetic state of the nervous system, and the sympathetic state of the nervous system, the fight or flight. And when I first came in contact with this theory, it was via Dan Neufer. Dan Neufer is also a recovery coach, and he told me about the dysregulated nervous system. So in this very simplistic state of the nervous system, there are these two branches. And what we see is that people with a chronic illness are overly stressed, and therefore the best attempt, according to this model and other health coaches, is to bring them to the rest and digest state of the nervous system. And in order to do that, there are right now maybe thousands of methods to calm down your nervous system. I'm sure that you've tried more than a handful. So could you write a few of those methods that you have tried in the comments, plus as well what your experience with these techniques were, and if it helped, of course. I do think that calming down the nervous system plays a very important role in healing. And therefore, we also start with it in the release program. And I also offer a lot of free meditations on the website that you can try and do to calm down your nervous system. And you can find the link below. And there are some really cool ones. Please check it out. So if you have been stressed for a longer period of time and you enter the rest and digest state of the nervous system, something funny happens. I call it no man's land, but those are my words. It's not the official language. But you become really tired, but in a sleepy kind of way. You can sleep maybe for 12 hours on end. You become really heavy. And that means that your immune system, which is also controlled by the autonomic nervous system, sort of has time to recover from things that happened when you were in a state of stress. And the state of no man's land can last maybe up to 3, 4, 5 weeks. And you might feel that there is something wrong with you because you are so heavy, you're sleeping so many hours of the day. At first you were exhausted, but now you have this. And stressing about this might make you leave the rest and digest phase. It's crucial to know that you can't really stay in the rest and digest mode for a longer period of time. Because as soon as something happens and you get into a state of resistance, you get into the stress response again, which is not necessarily a bad thing. But when we label the fight or flight mode as bad, and that's something that a lot of recovery programs and coaches are doing, we sort of become stressed about the stress itself. But stress in itself is a good thing. It wants us to survive. Fight or flight are mechanisms to make us survive, and therefore they are inherently good. But the misunderstanding of this oversimplification is the cause that many people are stuck. And what we see in this model is that there could be a wave pattern between the rest and digest state and the fight or flight mode. Because it's very difficult to stay in the rest and digest mode, because even when you are excited about something, you enter the stress response. And it's not really about calming yourself down at all costs, because that means that you're going to live a very sterile life, away from everything, anything that can stress you out, people, situations. And if you are aiming to be in the rest and digest state of the nervous system the entire time, I recommend living in a cage. Cave, I'm sorry. So the ability to regulate between the two states is what we call homeostasis. And homeostasis is the ultimate state that we can be in. This is what we should aim for. This is healthy. But unfortunately, it's not that easy because there is also a third state, and that's the freeze response of the nervous system. And what you can see is that the body can't hold homeostasis. Therefore, the autonomic nervous system is dysregulated and it enters the freeze response. And the question is, what is the reason? There must have been a stressor that was just too overwhelming that you couldn't hold it. What is this stressor exactly? And I can tell you, it's an emotion. The entire autonomic nervous system is heavily connected with your emotional state. That also means that the nervous system can't be broken or anything like it. The nervous system is just reflecting your emotional state. And some of the emotions can become overwhelming. And as a result, your body flips into the freeze response. And in the freeze response, your body sort of shuts down. Like an animal, it pretends to be dead because it thinks that that is the safest way for you to survive. In the previous podcast where I talked about calming down the nervous system and traveling, and you can find that podcast here, I also talk about that there is something missing. The reason why people are in the fight or flight mode to begin with, or in the freeze response to begin with, that's sort of ignored with the calming down the nervous system religion. In the comments of that podcast, someone mentioned that he went last week into an airplane. And what happened is that it was just too overwhelming. He couldn't hold it, and his body sort of shuts down into a weird state that he had to be removed from the airplane and brought to doctors to see if he was all right. In the freeze response of the nervous system, your brain also creates symptoms to protect you. So going back to the reason why the body went into the freeze response, which is emotional. You couldn't hold the emotion. It was just too overwhelming. And therefore the body wanted you to not feel that. And you also become really calm in the freeze response because you're sort of like playing dead. And that is not really the rest and digest state that you would like to be in. Sometimes when we push clients too fast into their emotions, this is what happens. And unfortunately, by now we can deal with it and we can regulate clients easier into the fight or flight state. The whole reason behind this problem is the lack of safety. So the way to heal is safety. But what kind of safety? Because if you're telling yourself like I'm safe, I'm safe, I'm safe, then you're just gaslighting yourself because it's obviously not the case. We need to make the emotions safe. And the emotions are in your body and you can feel them in your body. And therefore we also need to make the body safe. Chances are when you are in the free state of the nervous system that you become like an overthinker, thinking all the time. You become disconnected, a walking head. And reconnecting with your body and making emotions safe takes time. But via the release method, you'll learn that over time you are becoming able to stop the freeze response whenever it happens, and then finish the fight or flight mechanism and get back to the rest and digest state. And that means that within 30 minutes, you can become symptom free. Switching symptoms on and off on demand. That's something that I say frequently. Some people think that I'm gaslighting them whenever I say this, but actually it's the opposite, because gaslighting is the reason that you went into the freeze response in the first place. And usually this happens when you were a little child, but people are also doing it towards themselves. For example, when a child is emotional and it's crying, people are saying to the child, "Don't cry, everything is all right." And later in life, you can become angry and afraid or ashamed, and you just push that away. And then you tell yourself that everything is all right. It's not true. Usually you're going to do a lot of coping mechanisms, but that is gaslighting in itself, telling that everything is all right. So the opposite of gaslighting is calming yourself down. So no, we're not gaslighting you. We're trying to do the exact opposite. But when we bring you back into the rest and digest state of the nervous system, the body can become heavy and tired. But after that, the body would probably want to let go of more stress, because the reason that you are in a chronic illness is that your body wants to let go of all these emotions that you maybe have stored in your body for over a decade. Your body wants to get rid of it. So you can release one emotion and become symptom-free. But that's just one emotion, and chances are that you have suppressed more than one emotion. Well, it's probably likely. Yeah, something else comes up, another emotion, and we sort of have to peel ourselves off. But after every emotion, you can enter the freeze response of the autonomic nervous system and become very symptomatic again. Then it's all about learning how to deal with that emotion and making the body safe to hold that space. And over time, you'll notice that it becomes easier to get out of the freeze response. And eventually, you are no longer going to be in that freeze response, or rarely, because it's not really about becoming symptom-free in this. It's about regulating your nervous system eventually, and safety. And even last week, I had a symptom. And it's not meaning that I'm not recovered or that I'm doing it wrong. It just meant that I had to find ways to create safety and to feel something through, and preferably within 30 minutes, because I did not want to have symptoms my entire day. In the beginning of joining the release program, you probably won't be able to do that, to replicate that. But let's say after 1 year, you're getting the hang of it. And if you would like to find out more about this, everything about the freeze response and the symptoms, for example, and your chronic illness, your situations and the things that you've tried before, then please join the Q&A sessions. We have weekly Q&A sessions, and we're more than happy to answer all your questions. So I'd like to see you there. So this chart or model, as nice and beautiful as it might be, it's theoretical. But healing is practical. I do understand that people need a minimum amount of knowledge in order to do the practical stuff, the safety, the feeling the emotions, the completing the stress response, etc. But eventually it has to be practical. But right now I'd like to share this with you because I think that the oversimplification of the nervous system model has led to this religion where stress and fight or flight is bad. And that's just simply not the case. Fight or flight are crucial, and they are an important part of your life. Sometimes people will make you angry, and you become angry, and you get into the fight response. Maybe you would like to punch them. And maybe that would be a good thing, to get these people out of your life, or to create your new life with that anger. Maybe you've got a really massive buildup of anger inside of you. Maybe that gives you some symptoms. So maybe you get into the freeze response. That's not necessarily a bad thing again. Learn how to hold space for yourself. But then it becomes about transforming the energy into something good. We don't want to see negative anger that leads to all kinds of violence, but we would like to see constructive anger, but also constructive fear to remove yourself from danger, to make sure that you'll survive, because that's what it's all about. Another thing that is really good is subscribing to this YouTube channel. And I will be so thankful for you if you do that. And also make sure to write in the comments what your methods were to calm down the nervous system and what you think about it right now. And also when you look into the description, you can find everything about the Q&A. So join our program for a practical hands-on approach. I'd like to see you there, and I wish you a beautiful healing journey. Bye.